with a possible indication that Saraya will wrestle in AEW and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for September 28th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Talking to Bleacher Report, AEW star Eddie Kingston spoke about the therapeutic nature of his promo, saying it causes a lot of stress if you let it, you know what I mean? And I think that's with any job. If we let any job stress us out, but what makes my job different is that I get to let out my frustrations in the ring. And I get to let out my frustrations verbally when we do promos or segments or whatever people want to call it, whatever the TV people call it. I'm doing me at the end of the day. I tell people my promos are my therapy. On his Wrestling with Freddie podcast, former WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. gave some advice to AEW president Tony Khan, as he said, Tony Khan, who runs, books, and pays for and does everything, he is the man at AEW, took a shot on the crown jewel. It turns out you and I aren't the only ones that think it's a silly pay-per-view, but I felt like he got a lot of heat for it, and we didn't based on the way both parties described it. So this is for Tony. Tony all over it and said it's just some BS and the only crown jewel is that Arthur Ashe basically selling his stuff. Tony, you ain't got to do that. You don't have to dump on the crown jewel. Everyone on Earth knows it's horse. Everyone on Earth knows it is just a payday for WWE. He takes things very personally and he gets in his feelings and he talks about feeling attacked and things like this. Tony, you are the man. You have your first $1 million gate. Arthur Ashe Stadium, huge freaking show. I know you lost a couple of wrestlers, but they were wrestlers that you weren't doing anything with anyway. You're the man. Don't trip on what WWE is doing right now. Don't take it personally. Well, it's personal, man. They're coming after my business. You're going after their business too. You guys are competing in the same marketplace. It's like two action movies opening on the same weekend. You don't need to be insecure by these guys. You're a young company. You're growing exponentially. You're growing quickly, and you're starting to put on shows that people are respecting on both sides of the fence. Take confidence in that. Take confidence in the accomplishments and stop worrying about what they're doing. Sticking with Freddie Prinze Jr., he would have this to say on his podcast about the AEW debut of Saraya last week. If you don't know who this woman is, she has lived a life with more experiences than all of us combined. She's been wrestling since she was 13 or 14. Her family life was insane. It was basically like growing up in a carnival. She has dealt with crazy stuff, both good and bad. Some were her choices, some were not her choice. But for her to go through all of the things that she has gone through and walk out on that stage, she looked phenomenal. She looked in great shape. She looked excited, happy, not burnt out. She's living in the moment and no one knew. Not even the wrestlers in the ring knew that she was making her debut. I know this for a fact. Taking to his Undisputed podcast, former AEW star Bobby Fish, who recently made a debut in Impact Wrestling, noted how he was hurt by rumors made up about him, seemingly referencing a report of Fish asking Colin O'Reilly to leave AEW and join him in WWE. Guess what, boys? After over 25 years in the wrestling business, I don't know how contracts work myself. What was most troublesome and amusing at the same time was how many outlets picked up on. If there's anybody who knows that it's totally fabricated information, it would be me, Adam, Kyle, and Triple H. The people they're talking about, who didn't do any of the things. None of it is real. Even people like Jim Cornette picked it up and commented on it. Jim and I always had a great relationship. If I'm being honest, Jim hurt my feelings a little bit by believing some BS about me so easily. It is what it is, but that's what sucks the most about it. The people that write this stuff, there is no checks and balances, there are no ramifications when you are in the wrong, and they will continue to write whatever they're going to write, and it gets picked up by whoever. The fact or fiction line doesn't matter, and the whole thing is absurd. I appreciate the fact that AEW did what they did. It is no favor to me, it's just the truth. There is no favor needed. Let's just all tell the truth. Speaking of my San Antonio, Shawn Michaels spoke about NXT continuing to focus on indie stars and college athletes as well as Japanese stars. We are still reaching out to other people with experience that have wrestled on the independent scene or been out in Japan or in other companies. That is something NXT will continue to do in the future. Nothing is off the table. We simply want to continue to find people that are just as passionate about the WWE product as we are. On Busted Open Radio, WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long explained his issues with being hacked on Twitter and then talked about not being involved in pro wrestling anymore. Well, that's not my decision. That's not left up to me, That's left up to the powers that be, whether they want to be involved with me or not. But it don't bother me. I don't worry. Brother, listen. Let me tell you something. Mark Henry can tell you this. On that road each and every day, that is the most stressful stuff in the world. So I'll tell you something, brother. On the road over 20 years I was, so I came home. And after I was home for about 3 or 4 months, I didn't want to leave. I'm so happy to be sleeping in my own bed every night. I'll get out on track, but I'll get out now and go make appearances, but I come back home and I'm able to sleep in my own bed. I'm not stressed. So they're not really hurting me. They really did me a favor. I got a chance to get out and get myself back together before I left WWE. Talking about why he was released by WWE, he said, I was stressed a little bit. I put on some weight. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I'm not blaming WWE. I'm blaming myself because I got low stress. And I put on this weight and stuff, and then Vince always took care of me. And they have a drug policy there about smoking marijuana. So I quit smoking weed because I didn't want to let Vince down, and I didn't want to fail no drug test because I've respected him enough that he gave me this opportunity and I'm not going to mess it up. So that's why I quit smoking the weed. And then after a while being stressed out after 4 or 5 years, I started riding with certain people. I won't call their name because I don't want to put them out there. But anyway, I started back to smoking weed, and I messed around and failed one of the drug tests and put that weight on. And I know Vince hates that. He hates the weight, and Mark will tell you about that. So I blame myself. I was the cause of my release, but they were going to do it anyway, but I think I helped them. Talk about his singing session with Tyson Fury after losing to Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle. Drew McIntyre told the Hollywood Raw podcast, the singing that happened in Cardiff, if you had told me you're going to sing a song after you lose a big match, I still haven't checked how much was on TV. But not all of it was supposed to be on TV, but we went for it. If you embrace it, chances are the crowd is going to embrace it too, and you're going to have a fun time together. After that fun time, you deal with these serious storyline stuff on the following TVs. Staying on the topic of McIntyre, PW Insider noted that for those who have asked about Drew McIntyre, WWE sources have confirmed he has figured into creative plans for this week's SmackDown and is expected to return to the road for live events this coming weekend after a bad case of food poisoning last week. In some unfortunate news, former ring announcer for Women of Wrestling Dan Masters has passed away, as Jack Ford took to Twitter writing, "Sorry to hear about the loss of Dan Masters due to an automobile accident in El Salvador. He was a wonderful young man and gone far too soon. For those that follow WoW, he was the ring announcer there. Rest in peace, brother." Recalling how Vince McMahon got fed up with Michael Cole, former head writer for WWE, Brian Gewirtz wrote in his book, "There's Just One Problem. We all have our personal verbal tics," announcer Michael Cole used to say now at the end of every sentence. Jeff Hardy, into the ropes now. Vince took it upon himself to find Cole every time he ended a sentence with the word now. And sure enough, Cole stopped doing it. Saraya made her AEW debut last week and apparently got a big payday, which seems to indicate she will be wrestling, with it reported that sources familiar with the situation tell Fightful Select that Saraya has agreed to a 3-year contract with AEW. We are not sure if there are option years at play, as is often the case with AEW. However, we're told for the amount of money it was signed for largely implies that she'll be wrestling in some capacity. We haven't been given any indication of whether or not she's been cleared, but she is set to speak on AEW Dynamite tonight. Numerous talent within AEW had went to bat for Saraya and put in good words, but one AEW name said she didn't need it, since there was interest when she became available. Those that we spoke to on the roster seemed excited about her joining the company. Talking on WWE's The Bump, Goldberg was asked about the dominance of Roman Reigns. The WCW legend noted that, "I don't have any matches left on my contract, but I know one way I can take care of it. I do need to give him a receipt for that little chokeout in Saudi Arabia, but I think that there are a number of superstars that are capable of dethroning him, most definitely. It's got to be the right time, the right place, and it has to be one-on-one. And that's tough because nowadays with the Usos, he's got a built-in bodyguard system working out pretty well for him. I think Brock Lesnar has the opportunity to do it when he comes back, but like I said, I think there are a number of people on the card, on both shows, both programs, that have the potential to beat him, but it's got to fall into place. I mean, he's very dominant. We've seen that over the past year or longer, and it's going to take that special person to come out and dethrone him. I think, like I said, there are a couple of people that are more than capable of doing it. It's been a long road, no question about it, and to the fans, you mean everything to me. The young ones, the old ones, the in-between ones, the guys, the girls, the black, the white, the green, I don't care who you are. I couldn't be who I am without you, and I will be forever grateful for the rest of my days. And my days aren't done yet. My days may be numbered, but my days are not over with yet. I've got a monstrous garage and gym being built behind me in the frame that will be done in about a month, and if you think I'm not going to be living in there for the rest of my life, preparing for what's next, you're crazy. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.